Well, it's obviously been the topic in this town for the better part of a few weeks as we get set for the Super Bowl on Sunday, and that is Taylor Swift, the impact, her and Travis Kelce, where all this leads. And, of course, the last couple of weeks as well has been filled with thoughts as to whether or not the game is secretly being rigged and how this all makes sense, where Travis, Taylor, and Joe Biden factor into the equation. It's fascinating. I haven't given it much credence, but somebody who has, who I'm sure we agree on a lot, but not this one, is Mike Crispi, our next guest on KCMO Talk Radio. He ran for Congress in New Jersey a couple of years ago, and he joins us on KCMO Talk Radio in Kansas City. He was quoted in the New York Times recently on this very issue. So, Mike, good morning. Thanks for joining us on KCMO. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me on, Pete. It is going to be a fun next couple of days out in Kansas City, I'm sure.
All right. Well, it is. It is. We all got our red on here. We're fired up. We're ready to roll. So take me through this, Mike. I know this was in the New York Times, and you got a lot of attention on this tweet you put out saying you're calling it now. KC wins, goes to the Super Bowl. Swift comes out at halftime, endorses Joe Biden with Kelce at midfield. Are you standing by that prediction, Mike Crispi?
Listen, absolutely. Here's what I say, Pete. If it walks like a duck and it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, well, it might just be a duck. And every single move this football season has been an indicator. Now, people say there's no hard evidence, but an indicator that something is going on with Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and the NFL. And it's not organic, okay? So it's not organic. I think that every single clue we've seen has indicated a staged set-up thing. And I said this to many of the reporters who I've talked to. This isn't like a new concept, Pete. I mean, publicists in Hollywood have set up couples for mutual financial gain for years. So I think this is just the biggest, baddest attempt to ever do it. And I obviously think that there's going to be a tie-in at the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift, Joe Biden, and we can get into that a little bit. But I think that that is part of it. But this concept is not like a foreign space alien concept. Famous people do this all the time.
Yes.
I just think this is the big level of it ever.
No, you're right about that. Publicists setting up people all the time. But then to take it to the Joe Biden angle, where does that factor into the equation for you, and how are you getting from A to B on that?
Well, here's what I think. So I think that one, obviously, if you look at Taylor Swift and the history of her career, you know, she had very recently, it was her big conflict over her music licenses. And if you look at who took her music license and who she was upset about, she was mad at Scooter Braun and George Soros, okay? Who does George Soros support politically? I mean, obviously, all of the Democrat candidates. You also saw polling put out into the ether recently that said that like 18 or 20%, it was quoted on CNN or MSNBC rather, on Joy Reid's show. I forget who did that poll, but Joy Reid talked about it. And she basically said, 20% of Americans are more likely to vote for the candidate that Taylor Swift says. So why are they getting to that point? Why are they talking about that? And I believe that the media likes to put things out to set the narrative. They're not really reporting the truth. I think they're putting things out to set a narrative. So they put that out there in the ether that Taylor Swift could have all this political sway. And then they start talking about this hero love story of Taylor Swift. I kind of tongue-in-cheek said she was going to parachute in from Japan, how this hero love story of how will Taylor Swift make it to the Super Bowl from Japan and all of these things. So, you know, I think that Taylor Swift all of a sudden dropped her beef with the George Soros, Scooter Braun people. I think Travis Kelce got all this money from Pfizer conspicuously right around the same time they started, quote-unquote, dating, which I don't think they ever are really dating. And I think that everything, you know, talking about the political narrative.
But but Mike, the George Soros angle, I mean, it would seem to me, first off, she's ripped George Soros and she's recut every song in her catalog so that the group backed by Soros who bought her catalog doesn't make any more money. So that right there doesn't stack up to me.
Okay, well, so Taylor Swift, as I was saying, Taylor Swift had her beef with Scooter Braun, George Soros, and the like. So she was talking about that. Mm-hmm. She was saying that he was taking her music license. All of a sudden, she dropped that beef. And at the same time, Travis Kelce was signing a $100 million deal with Pfizer. You take the fact that the mainstream media has injected into the ether this whole thing about Taylor Swift having a massive impact on the election. MSNBC referenced a poll, and they were talking about it for 2 straight days, how 20% of Americans are more likely to vote for Taylor Swift's candidate. So I believe that they're putting that out there to set the narrative. I don't think that the media reports the truth. I think they put things out to set a narrative. So I already think they're starting to set the narrative, Pete, that Taylor Swift will have an impact politically. So I think you take that, you take Taylor Swift dropping her beef with one of the biggest political donors of the Democrat Party, Travis Kelce making the money, the NFL having a good time making millions of dollars along the way, and being totally financially incentivized for this all to go on. I think that makes this very fake and staged relationship obvious for what it is. Despite there not being any hard proof, I think all these factors kind of add up.
Well, Mike, we are grateful for your time here on KCMO. We got your contact now. Let's keep in touch on this, all right?
Listen, if the Kansas City Chiefs win and Taylor Swift comes out to midfield, you got to let me guest those two show on the next Monday.
Will be the first guy on this show. You'll be the first guy on the show on Monday, Mike. I promise you that.
All right, you got it. Thank you.
All right, Mike Crispi ran for Congress in New Jersey. He's all in on that.